Transformers: The Last Knight is directed by Michael Bay and is the 5th Transformers movie in this series, and is a movie that nobody wanted. Now listen, I actually like the first 3 Transformers movies. The first one I feel like is really enjoyable. It's actually a pretty good movie overall. The second one is a guilty pleasure to me. I know there's a lot of stupid things in there that people just hate, but for me personally, I enjoy that movie. And the third one too is also pretty good. The first half is not that great, but the second half is definitely a pretty darn good movie. So when it comes to the Transformers franchise, I really like the first 3 movies, honestly. And then the 4th one came out 3 summers ago, and I just saw that one a couple of weeks ago, and that movie to me, I thought the first half was enjoyable, but after that, that movie was just completely terrible. And with this one, being that it's the 5th movie in the Transformers franchise, it has a lot of the flaws that the 4th movie had, and pretty much all the movies had, but it's actually even worse than the 4th one. So at the start of this movie, we see that the Autobots and the Decepticons are still at war, and Transformers are actually illegal in many parts of the world. And then we have this group called the TRF who's trying to eliminate the Transformers. And then of course we have Mark Wahlberg's character, Cade, still there, trying to fight against this organization and trying to save the Transformers. And there's this whole backstory in this movie of how the Transformers have been living on Earth for much longer than we ever thought. In fact, they helped fight with King Arthur. And there's a staff that Merlin once held, but the Decepticons are trying to go after it. Also in this movie, Optimus Prime goes back to his home planet, Cybertron, to see his creators. But when he gets there, the villain in this movie puts him under mind control, so now he becomes a villain and is after the staff. And there's this whole backstory with this Last Night thing. Honestly, this movie, this plot is not very good at all. First of all, in the first 30 minutes of this movie, it was so sloppy in how they introduced everything going on. I could not keep up at all. All these different random events were taking place. We were introduced to Anthony Hopkins, but not really introduced to him. It was all a huge mess. And right then and there, I knew to myself that this movie was going to be an abomination from the very beginning. Like I said, people did not think the first 3 movies were that funny. I actually thought some of the jokes were okay. I laughed a couple of times. Even in the 4th movie, too, there were a couple jokes that landed for me. But in this movie, absolutely nothing landed for me at all. Good old Michael Bay humor. You really know how to make people laugh, Michael Bay. Josh Duhamel is back in this movie as the Sergeant, and I don't know what he was doing in this movie at all. It was a completely wasted appearance for him. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but who cares? Megatron is in this movie as one of the villains, and honestly, it made absolutely no sense to me why he was in here, and did not do anything for me. It was completely stupid. And then after the first 30 minutes of this movie, which was extremely messy, I was bored out of my mind. And the running time of this movie was 2 hours and 30 minutes. So I gave the first 15 minutes a chance, and I was thinking to myself, maybe I can get involved. We saw some King Arthur stuff, and I thought it was pretty cool. But after that, I did not care at all. The action scenes were okay. They were decent. They were somewhat enjoyable, but for the most part, I was bored in those scenes too, and we did not even see that much of the Transformers in this movie. A lot of the times, it was just Mark Wahlberg and this random girl who they were trying to force a romance with, and it was so stupid. And there was this entire giant scene with Anthony Hopkins talking about the past and how Transformers used to live on Earth all this time and all this other random crap with origins. I don't know. It was boring as hell. Not to mention, there were plenty of plot holes left and right in this movie. Oh, and if you saw the trailer and you saw that Optimus Prime was a villain in this movie, well, that was also BS, and the whole story there was completely disappointing. No spoilers or anything, but trust me, if you're expecting to see a lot of villain Optimus Prime, he's barely even in this movie. So what is good about this movie? Well, Mark Wahlberg gives a good performance. He was good in the 4th movie, and in this movie, he's also Mark Wahlberg. And then we also have Anthony Hopkins, who's pretty good. So the acting, I felt like, for the most part, was improved upon from the last movie, and that's about the only thing in this movie that was better than the last movie. So overall, Transformers: The Last Knight had a terrible plot. It was a really bad first 30 minutes, which led me to get extremely bored with the rest of the movie. And there was a lot of plot holes, a lot of crap in there, a lot of wasted characters, and a complete waste of my time. Michael Bay, I don't know what you're doing with these movies, but you could do a little bit better than what you did with this one, because the first three movies I thought were fine, very enjoyable, and I could watch them anytime I ever want. I like those movies. The fourth one was okay. This one, though, my God, this one was just the worst. And the sixth one, who knows what the heck they're going to do. Hopefully it's a little bit better than this one. Now, this movie, I don't know if it's as bad as, say, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. That movie was absolutely terrible. But I am going to give this movie a worse grade, and I'm going to say Transformers The Last Knight is a 30%. A movie that I did not really have any expectations for, but still, it was not good at all. I'm sorry to say that. Alright guys, let me know down below if you've seen Transformers The Last Knight. Hopefully you haven't, and just please watch the first three movies instead. So before the weekend starts, I'm going to have my next Blu-ray video. I've got plenty more Blu-rays up for you guys, so I want to make a video there showcasing all the new ones. And also, Despicable Me 3 comes out this weekend, so I think I'm going to go see that one. I like the first two movies, so hopefully this one's just as good. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.